Now we have the next session coming from Dr. Ravindra Dasitap, Assistant Professor, SDM College of Engineering and Technology. And he's going to speak on building a private cloud using open source.
Time. And also teach you, I'll show you how I've been using cloud computing in all the aspects. And today's presentation will talk about the power of cloud computing and the consequent power of private cloud and how to build that. Technologically speaking, building a private cloud using two LANs would take approximately half an hour. So that I will try to do in the end of the presentation. But before that, I would like to make you a convincing regarding why this cloud is all about and how it is revolutionary both in nature and aspect, and how it's going to change everything that we have been doing so far. One of the last message from the last speaker was that things are not new, but the way of looking them must be new to derive actually the full benefit of that. So most of the thinking about cloud computing is happening that they are seeing it as an extension of existing technology so that actually you can take an advantage. But that's not the way. The cloud computing gives you a kind of a power which nobody has given you in the past. And that power people are not realizing because they are looking from the old lenses. Okay, so to realize that power, actually as you show in my presentation, I will tell you. So once you start looking at that, and then it gives you a kind of a power which enables you to do certain things which nobody has done in the past. So as you can see, this cloud is such a powerful thing. Unlike other presenters, I didn't come out with my laptop here. Nor unlike others, I brought my pen drive. I directly went to my blog and started my presentation. So this is essentially power of cloud computing. So cloud computing for the first time has given you a kind of a liberty, and if you start realizing this liberty, you can not only do a kind of a thing like you can also start a company without owning assets, create value without owning networks, write books without having a printing press, that kind of a thing. So as my presentation tells you, see, cloud computing is something which is so worldwide and so spreading actually. It like our network, Vodafone dog, it follows you everywhere, but it also takes you over without actually applying roaming charges to you. Okay, so that's the power. So let me start with the presentation. In this presentation, I have only one single point agenda. The agenda is to enlighten the audience on the power and potential of private cloud and its value proposition. So it's a very strong one actually. So I will just tell you what is meaning and need for private cloud, why somebody should be considering this one, and what are the open resources which are available. See, today we are living in such a kind of a world that many things are available which is works of other brains which you can directly use. In my cloud computing classes, I tell my students, today it is possible to download everything from the internet except money. Right? So but having said that, there are many resources on the net which actually download and create value and sell money, create money out of that. Okay. So that is the power and potential. So we are living in a kind of a most connected, most charitable, most flourishing time of the world. So that also I'll talk about open source. And finally, if at all you want to decide to build, what are the hardware requirements which are needed for that. So the fundamental value proposition of cloud should be realized before you actually start harnessing that. See, the idea of cloud is not technology, not architecture, it is the organizing principle. So that means how do you organize your IT space? IT space means IT infrastructure. So that is the central point of that. So far the idea has been actually to buy you design your architecture, buy them, own them, and then actually start using that. So the separation is the idea of cloud computing. Cloud computing, what it says this, you can do a work without owning a machine. You can run a program without your data. You can use your data without, run a program when your program is not yours. So it separates activity from the ownership and value creation from the assets. So that's the fundamental idea. So this is not to human society. Human society actually has always flourished to a broader extent whenever it has found a new organizing principle. For example, before the invention of book, the organizing principle of any knowledge was actually memory, rote memory. That means you should by heart that and keep it to your heart. But the moment the book came, actually information as an organizing principle, or a book and organizing principle, created everything in the rest of the history. For example, today university is not possible without a book. Right. So when book came as an organizing principle, it created a revolution. So that is the idea. Similarly, IT space is being actually re-architectured well. Similarly, when actually factory was invented as a production unit, it created another revolution, because first time actually you liberated your limit from the human power, human muscle power. An engine was sitting there. Similarly, actually when telephone was invented, then it created a multinational corporation, because British, this East India Company and all, they used to run using only telephone. That means the organizing principle was not limited by geography then. It is something else. So whenever there is a power of this kind of a things comes, and when you use that power to organize your organization or your institution, that kind of gives a kind of a liberty which is going to be very powerful. Phones created, multinational corporations, books created, booking industry, I mean like steam engine created, entirely a factory and assembly line kind of a thing. So once you realize this, then the very idea of cloud computing come into this. This newly liberated resource has been created a new kind of a industry. So the first meaning of cloud computing is actually availing services like this, that means Amazon, Gmail and all, which are globally run businesses whose office you don't know, but you can access them. For the first time you have a brands whose offices, head offices or branch offices you don't know, but you start using them. Okay. So the first one. So first meaning of cloud computing is actually availing these resources. So because of this, there is a fundamental change. See, for example, before cloud computing came, your business was linked to your IT. That means your ability to do a business dependent entirely on your IT resources. So that means if you want to, and that's the reason when, like for example, when Tehalka news was released, people started hitting that the whole website crashed. So that means your ability to reach actually is directly proportional to the infrastructure that you have, whether it's physical or anything. But with the invention of cloud computing, there is a fundamental change. See, you have a business here and you have an IT organization here. So you can scale up, scale down, depending on the resource that you need. And there are instances, many instances which show you. For example, probably you have known about this company, Instagram, which is recently bought by this. See, this company created an entire business without owning a single PC. And you know, it has only 6 employees who work for the company. And we all know that even a roadside tea shop will have 3 employees to make a business. Okay, so this is possible because this company completely exploited the power of cloud computing. That means you don't have to own asset to create value. Okay, so once you realize the point of this point, then everything rest will follow immediately. I think I am not getting this. Where did it go? Where did my presentation go? Okay, so this is a company. I mean, Facebook bought it for $1 billion. Okay, so what did you actually? All this does is actually every IT infrastructure for this company is subverted by somebody else, and they don't have a head office. They don't even have a physical office. Okay, so the idea is not that they made $1 billion. The idea is that today it is possible to create wonders without owning, and that is possible only because of cloud computing. Which one? Oh, sorry. Okay. Now how do I go, man? Here? Okay, I'll mean. Okay, so this, once you realize this, okay, and this is very tempting to use this kind of a technology within your organization also. So whatever you do, like this info, Facebook, Google and all, they are actually harnessing the power of cloud computing to offer public services, hence they are called public clouds. Now it is possible if you are a very big organization like KSRTC or Microsoft and all, it's possible to use those technologies back into your organization and start using to harness the power. So it is because of this reason, that means cloud gives you a kind of a thing, it is impossible for you to resist the temptation to get this kind of a technology back into your organization, and this is exactly is what about cloud computing. But when I say this, there are certain subtle changes. The first question comes like this. See, why is that then if cloud computing is powerful and public, why companies cannot directly start using the public clouds? There are certain things, for example, in private cloud, there are some service level agreement between customers and the clients which cannot be implemented at the global level. Similarly, there are certain things like the objective of Google is to make business, whereas the objective of a company which is being a private cloud is to optimize its resources. There are many resources which have been bought in the past which not been completely used. For example, one of the reasons why Amazon came into cloud computing business is actually they had lot of resources which they are not using, hence they wanted to convert a business proposal out of that. Okay, so that's the idea. But when I say that there are certain barriers, you cannot directly use public cloud for your business. For the same reason, you cannot use KSRTC for your public transportation. Company transportation needs different because there are people of different status, there are people come in small numbers. Okay, so that means you use the same road, same buses, but you use it in a different way. So one reason is actually lot of desire to be think like, for example, the security issues is a big concern. And many things, because people are still scared about putting their data into the public cloud and use it. But this is more of a psychological thing than actually anything else. For example, when 25 years back when banks started giving lockers, people were hesitant to put their money in banks and jewelries in bank because they did not want to trust that being banks and managers. Today you have to pay premium to get a locker. What's the reason? Banks have not changed, but perception about the security of bank have changed. Something similar is actually happening on Google, other kind of a thing, where security standards of every big company is great enough. And as I tell my students, like, see, it's unlikely that some robber will come and only steal your part of the money in a bank locker. It's very unlikely. And any time that actually happens, bank will double